If somebody had any kind of psychological difficulty, then this would not be a good idea.
One of my stories is how much death and suicide there was around. There was one guy, Hubbard, very influential in the music scene. He was apparently convinced that he was a son of Satan and that he and I were sort of brothers. And he started coming around all the time. One day he brought this beautiful ring, a silver with topaz, and gave it. He says, "This is for you, brother." Now, who he thought he was talking to and who was actually taking the ring from him. And Graham threw himself under a subway train, some years. And this mind that saw himself, as a son of Satan, got worked out into something to commit suicide about.
About the cult called the Process, a very secretive cult. We have found through that there was a possibility Charlie was involved at one time with that cult.
Quite recently, Patricia Krenwinkel mentioned him being there, and Robert de Grimston, who was who ran a satanic church at the time, was there. And she said, it was an amazing thing to hear, really. She said that she remembered de Grimston being there, and she said that they thought he was a bad influence on Charlie because he was a Satanist.
Is there any connection between you and Robert de Grimston? I think he said, actually, de Grimston and I are one, so he's not denying anything.
Charlie would talk about how he was Jesus and the devil all in one, and all men were, but he was more the epitome of it. And he had died 2,000 years before, and we were the only ones going to be saved.
So what do you think made Manson attractive to young people?
Well, he seemed to have a easily understood, attractive solution to the psychological moral vacuum in certain people. Not everybody, just certain people.
The group started with our founders, Robert and Marianne.
Robert de Grimston was the Christ to come. He was supposed to be the Messiah.
Marianne was telling she'd been in this restaurant, with Robert, and the waitress did, this is Robert. 'Tis Christ come again. Robert and Marianne, they left Cientology, wanted to improve on the analysis.
One of the first things I discovered about processing was actually the basic discovery of processing, that man was asleep and he had to wake up. And then I went about trying to find out ways and means of how to make him do this, and that became processing.
Either through conversation or through a machine called an E-meter, these professionals would help the patient recall past traumas and get through them or over them, removing the emotional trauma of past memories in a process called clearing. This E-meter picks up on signals from the body in the same way that a polygraph lie detector might, and it tells the auditor what phrases or memories trigger negative feelings and when they can conclude certain conversations.
Its methods were designed to rid the patient of compulsive behaviors. They used the E-meter as a powerful tool to measure emotional charge and produced effective results through their adept usage of the device.
When Tom Cruise and John Travolta joined Scientology, they were hooked up to this controversial machine called an E-meter. The device was developed by Scientology founder L. Ron Hubbard.
Is there any equipment used in this processing? Yes, we have a meter, one of the most misunderstood objects that anybody had anything to do with. And a meter simply shows where an individual is aberrated.
Scientologists revere the e-meter and call it a religious artifact. But what exactly is the e-meter and how does it work?
It actually works with your subconscious mind. And with that, that means it works with you asking questions and you giving yourself answers that you already know, but they're deep embedded within.
You are supposed to go on the meter and exercise the spirits out multiple times a day.
Robert and Marianne realized that this e-meter, the thing that the Scientologists use, one could use it in order to go far, far deeper into the self.
It's working with your own electrical pulses from your mind, and it's working through your hand and channeling down the crystal.
I was involved in it, and I was at Cientología and worked there and went through some processing, and I don't know, it was it's far out stuff. It had a lot of allurement, but it has a great evil at its root.
They developed this way of bringing out in people things about their unconscious mind and what stops them from living their life.
As the therapy sessions continued, a deeper sense of spiritual purpose began to emerge from the group of participants, under the guidance of Robert and Marianne, and this manifested in the formation of the Process Church.
These beings started speaking to us in our group meditations, and that was very, very strange.
The process swept through different parts of the world. They attracted converts, and that by a multi-god approach, the appeal broadened, as certain individuals gravitated toward a particular god. Either Jehovah, Lucifer, or Satan, depending upon their predisposition.
See the swastika spinning? You see it coming alive? You see that spirit coming back? You see it coming back? You dig what I'm saying? In other words, it's coming back in the spirit of the youth. It's coming back from the battlefields. It's coming back. Peace on earth. Peace on earth. And the peace on earth goes beyond that line.
The process was saying that Christ and Satan had to reconcile, and that if Christ was about forgiveness, then he must forgive all enemies, including the fallen angels. That made sense to me.
That's a very rich vein, for getting people's goats.
Many rituals were devised to bring Process members into communion with each of these gods.
And I don't know whether she came up with it or whether it came up in my mind, I'll flagellate myself. So there I was, wham, bam. And I found that by the third of really doing it on the bare back, I was up and out of my body. Woof.
Senior people have been participating in occasional staged orgies.
Yeah, they were orchestrated by Marianne.
At one stage, I took part as a witness to a black mass.
We staged a black mass in the building.
It played a major importance for processions to realize that they were subject to the will of the gods.
The process were the actual chosen beings of God come to announce and facilitate the ending of all humanity.
Do you really think that they're trying to take over the world?
Yes, I do.
It was really Dada meets Aleister Crowley.
The craters and mountains of our moon bear the names of giants of science, figures like Archimedes, Kepler, and Copernicus. There is also a crater honoring someone called Jack Parsons. There are some who would rather he had been forgotten. Perhaps that's why his crater is on the dark side of the moon.
Yeah, I was in prison when Diagnetics first started. Yeah, 1950. But he come up with Diagnetics 1950. So a lot of the guys were interested in studying the way to process the mind, how to clear your mind from past confusion.
Just to sum up, did you like Hubbard? Tell me what you thought.
No, I didn't like him almost from the first, but I was fascinated by him because he had so many stories to tell, and he was so charming, but I never believed a word of him. And in contrast to most of the people there who just accepted him as a saint almost.
And so on.
Can you describe processing?
Processing is the principle of making an individual look at his own existence and to improve his ability to confront what he is and where he is.
To make him look at his own existence.
That's right.
And confront where he is and what he is.
That's right.
How is this brought about?
You just ask the person to look, actually.
There is some portion of the mind which is not in contact with the consciousness, but which contains data. It was the search for this portion of the mind which led to the resolution of the problem of insanity.
His ambition was with religion. What was he up to?
To get as much attention, as many followers, and as much money as he could, and he did. And Scientology well, of course, it worked tremendously for him. It wasn't even Scientology then; it was Dianetics, and that was his the big first book, and it really sold it. I think it was into the millions, as far as I know.
Why did you leave the church?
I was also tired of the fraud and the deception, plus his deep involvement in personal use of drugs on himself and others, black magic.
When you say black magic, what are you talking about? I mean, some of the things that I read in the stack of material, it sounds just absolutely unbelievable. What are you talking about when you say this?
Really, the basis of Scientology, which is rather hidden and covered over, is the occult, the deep involvement with satanic powers that he felt that he was deeply involved with a British black magician called Aleister Crowley.
Wait, who?
Aleister Crowley.
Aleister Crowley. By Aleister Crowley, the late Aleister Crowley, my very good friend. And he did himself a splendid piece of aesthetics built around those magic cults. It's very interesting reading to get a hold of a copy of a book, quite rare, but it can be obtained, The Master Therion, Therion, The Master Therion by Aleister Crowley. He signs himself The Beast, the Mark of the Beast, 666.
A background on Jack Parsons. Jack Parsons was the founder of the Jet Propulsion Lab at NASA and one of the reasons why we even made it to the moon. But he was also a Thalamite occultist and part of the Agape Lodge.
Hubbard started off as the magical assistant to a guy called Parsons in Pasadena who worked for Aleister Crowley.
Well, I didn't know that.
Hubbard ran off with his girlfriend and Parsons blew himself up.
This father of American rocketry was also an occultist, devoted to a path still widely misunderstood and feared.
So the founding of modern rocket science is absolutely allied and connected with black magic.
Only its detractors would call it black magic. For Parsons, this was his spiritual path, as it is for its initiates today.
He decided to convert to Aleister Crowley's Thelema theology, which has its origins in demonology, Eastern practice, Eastern spiritualism, etc.
You have become an incredible, important thinker and teacher for this generation. I mean, letting me in as a friend.
O.T.O. is the first religious body to base its work on the law of Thelema.
Founded by Karl Kellner, Ordo Templi Orientis, Order of the Temple of the East, is an international fraternal and religious organization founded at the beginning of the 20th century. English author and occultist Aleister Crowley has become the best-known member of the order. During his trips to the East, Kellner came across the Tantric teachings there and decided this must be the key to enlightenment that Freemasonry is missing.
Magic practices, the spiritual powers, lead to main paths, not for everyone, the left-hand path. Tantric sex, fulfilling the worldly desires, forbidden, against the accepted norms, all possible means, black magic, negative or wrong purpose, black tantra. Dare to undertake any practice against the law of nature.
I don't know, it would take too long to explain it all. But yeah, you're right.
The O.T.O considers itself to be the true heir of the Knights Templar and the Bavarian Illuminati. Crowley's text also contains several thinly veiled allusions to human ritual sacrifice to attain magical potency.
Reforming the Masonic system to allow the admission of women may have been one of the reasons that Kellner and his associates resolved to obtain control over one of the many rites of Masonry, possibly because of wishing to incorporate the practice of sex magic.
The other outer rite of O.T.O is Mysteria Mystica Maxima, a set of graduated initiations using the methods of Freemasonry and the ancient mystery cults.
Their view may have been that sex magic was the key to all of the secrets of the universe and all the symbolism ever used in secret societies and religions.
They practiced sex magic, which is exactly what it sounds like.
I came home unexpectedly, and what I saw my grandfather doing, some ritual.
I looked at them, and I thought, oh, what a beautiful thing, because maybe one day it'll be like that. You know what I'm saying? Maybe one day it will be that. There's nothing part of the way for me. It's just...
The story of Tom Cruise, Scientologist, has only just begun.
Back in England, Crowley found his first disciple, Victor Neuberg, a young Cambridge poet. Neuberg was subjected to a series of sadistic acts designed to test the poet's dedication to the beast.
You can control people that way. Emotional abuse is a very powerful tool for control.
Crowley and Neuberg embarked on the climax of the ritual, summoning Choronzon, the dweller of the abyss, seen within the occult world as the devil himself.
They believed that the intense feeling people have while having an orgasm opens a gate to the universe. They believed that in that small window of opportunity, it is possible for a human being to perform a magic spell.
Crowley gets seized with a passion to perform a sexual act, and Crowley is the passive partner in the sex act. And at the point of orgasm, Crowley has like a mystic revelation. He sees a blinding white light. He seems to commune with the secret chiefs, and he suddenly realizes that sex can be a sacrament, can be in praise of the gods. It's like a shortcut. It's a short circuit to go straight in to achieve whatever you want to achieve magically.
And through this spirituality began to practice something known as sex magic. Sex magic is the belief that through the act of sex, in that moment of orgasm, you are momentarily connected to the universe. And in that instant, you can request something from the universe in return.
The effect of the rituals left Neuberg a shattered man. He never fully recovered from the experience. But for Crowley, this was the final piece in the jigsaw. He had now united his belief in the power of sex and magic into one occult vision.
Parsons became the leader of his own group, and they would have huge sex magic orgies at his mansion in Pasadena.
L. Ron Hubbard was one of the frequent guests to the Parsons sex magic orgies.
morning. Hear about the ad for tenants? I've heard a lot of things about you, Mr. Parsons. All bad. Very bad. It's just my kind of thing.
And he advertised, tell me about the ad he used to put in the paper that you didn't...
Oh, well, he's decided to open up the ad about a room for some vacant apartments up there. And so he converted them all, and then he had 19 apartments available. And so he put an ad in the paper. He said they must not believe in God, or something like that. And it just attracted thousands of people, all of whom were insisting they were not religious and that.
Ron Hubbard, the founder of Scientology, was an avid follower of Aleister Crowley and indeed practiced the 8th ritual of the O.T.O, which was a homosexual magical ritual intended to bring about the birth of a moon child who would be the Antichrist.
And you're? Lafayette Ronald Hubbard. But my friends call me Ron.
Scientology derives a great deal of material from Crowley. I must say that I consider Scientology far more dangerous than the O.T.O.
And through putting himself in deep hypnotic trances and the use of drugs on himself, he wanted to become the most powerful being in the world.
When I was a child, I loved magic. And I would say to myself, I'm going to be the greatest magician there's ever been. And I had no idea that meant I would have 20 years to sit alone in a prison cell and practice and study.
It baffles me. It really does. I can't understand why any person would do anything, would kill for another person for no reason. To me, it doesn't make sense. I mean, you got to be hypnotized or something by this person. And maybe Manson had that power.
The real deal is a serious situation, ladies and gentlemen. If you do not want to be hypnotized, now is the time where you can get up and leave your seat and go out. Well, honestly, anyone in the audience, there's a lot of people who don't want to be hypnotized. This is interesting. Where are you going, man? You have to stay.
There is what is known as a post-hypnotic suggestion. A man is placed in a hypnotic trance by standard hypnotic technique or some hypnotic drug. The operator then may say to him, "When you awaken, there is something you must do. Whenever I touch my tie, you will remove your coat. When I let go of my tie, you will put on your coat. Now you will forget that I have told you to do this." The operator then touches his tie. The subject may make some remark about its being too warm, and so take his coat off. The operator then releases his tie. The subject may remark that he is now cold and will put his coat back on. The operator then touches his tie. The subject may say that his coat has been to the tailor's, and with much conversation finally explain why he is taking it off, perhaps to see if the back seam had been sewn properly. The operator then releases his tie, and the subject says he is satisfied with the tailor and so replaces his coat. The operator may touch his tie many times, and each time receive action on the part of the subject. At last, the subject may become aware from the expressions on people's faces that something is wrong.
Something is wrong.
Hypnotism is a laboratory tool. It is not used in Dianetic therapy.
Dianetics techniques are hypnotism. Like, straight up. The only real difference between Dianetic Book 1 auditing techniques and hypnotism is that Hubbard tells you it's not hypnotism. And that's about it.
Through Scientology processing, a person was able to look at the problems, to confront the problems that they were facing in their everyday life. Is this some form of hypnotism? Oh, no. That's very funny.
What happened during your auditing process? How does that work?
Well, what happened in a nutshell is pure hypnosis. There's no two ways about it. This is hypnosis.
In the future, when I utter the word canceled, everything that I have said to you while you're in a therapy session will be canceled and will have no force with you. Any suggestion that I have made to you will be without force when I say the word canceled. Do you understand?
Sure do. You close your eyes. The auditor counts down from 10 to 1. And you are expected to go into a trance state. It's called reverie in Dianetics, and reverie is a hypnosis term as far as I understand. So you actually do go into a light or heavy trance state, depending on how tranceable the person is.
Basically, she had me close my eyes pretty much immediately. She says, I want you to think back to the earliest painful memory that you have.
So then the person is made to go back and relive, experiences in the past.
Take me back to something that happened to you. Maybe some trauma.
All right. Go through the incident and say what is happening as you go along.
I won't talk it, and I'll just keep having you go back to it and back to it over and over again.
Good. Go back to the beginning and go over it. Pick up whatever additional data you can contact. Go back to the beginning and go over it. Pick up whatever additional data you can contact. Good. Go back to the beginning and go over it. Pick up whatever additional data you can contact.
And go back to the beginning. And so at some point, you were just absolutely elated, that you were made to believe that trauma that had been keeping you down all these years is blown. You've blown the charge, so to speak. And that's what they'll tell you. But the fact is, you've said it so many times and been through the story so many times. All you can do is throw your head back and laugh at that point. See what I mean? Yeah. So in other words, there is a release, chemical and otherwise, but it's hypnosis. That's what they do.
You really think you got it together now, don't you? Be careful. Be careful, I could be dangerous. Is that your mother over there? Is that your mother in the corner? What's your mom doing over there? She needs to be home. Oh, goodness gracious, the dog is eating the cat. See? The dog's eating the cat.
I'm sure there's something sinister about it. For instance, some of the techniques they have of teaching.
Such as?
Well, for instance, on this driveway just down here, we hear this shouting that's indoctrination, I suppose they call it, where these two people will sit on two chairs opposite one another, and a man or the woman will have a small object in his hand. He will pick this up. While he's doing so, he will shout in a very loud voice, "Stand up, sit down, thank you. Stand up, thank you. Sit down, thank you." This will sometimes go on for as much as 2 to 3 hours.
These training routines are practiced by Scientologists for hundreds, if not thousands of hours, and these routines repeat themselves through later courses that a Scientologist takes throughout his career, all the way up to and through the highest levels of Scientology training.
By the time Scientologists have been through hundreds or even thousands of hours of this kind of indoctrination, they are very well conditioned to controlling other people.
St. Hill Manor is a haven for sinister cultists who prey on the unwary and bilk the gullible. Whatever it is, the manor is also world headquarters for Cientology, the brainchild of a one-time science fiction writer, L for Lafayette, Ron Hubbard, who has been barred from Britain and who is said by some to be living on a yacht now moored off Tunisia.
As L. Ron Hubbard was an established author known for works of fiction, mostly science fiction. Over his lifetime, he published over 600 fiction pieces, including both short stories and novels, and he holds the Guinness World Record for the author with the most published works. So as we get into the religion aspect of Scientology, you can see that people might not believe the religious texts that he wrote following so many works of science fiction.
As a successful science fiction author, he was a welcome visitor to the Los Angeles Science Fantasy Association. Its members recalled there was one power over the mind he undoubtedly did possess: hypnotism.
Ron Hubbard came to our club and he hypnotized all of the members except me. I wanted to remain in present time and watch what was going on. And I remember it was fascinating. He told one boy that he had a little kangaroo in the palm of his hands, and the boy was going all around showing everybody his little kangaroo that was hopping around.
Critics of Scientology feel that the TRs create a hypnotic state in a person or a trance-like state in a person that makes them more easy to manipulate or to control.
They were all very, very thin, and they had this kind of very recognizable mannerism of the unblinking eye.
It's in this TR that a person really develops a fairly unblinking look at other people that people in the streets of Clearwater, for example, have commented on. The Scientologists that they pass in the street basically are using their TRs on the people that they see as they're walking down the street.
The process would look straight at you. Right. I hear what you're saying. They scared the daylights out of me because they had a power. At the same time, I was fascinated by them. You just think, what is this?
Then at the end she said, I'm gonna count down from 5. And when I count down, I'm then gonna say canceled. And when it's canceled, it means it will no longer affect you. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, canceled.
The rhetoric of religion seems odd to me, the supreme being. What? Are we living in Star Wars? Oh, Lord. Lord? What is it, Lord of the Rings? Lord? You know, fuck off, Lord. You know, I mean, what is that? Lord, oh, Lord God, you know. The language is so weird.
So apparently you're now a lesbian Scientologist.
Well, I am a Scientologist.
Okay.
I've been a Scientologist for a while now. Yeah. I mean, it's...
I couldn't believe what Peaches was saying. This was the first time she'd ever publicly admitted to being a follower of the religion of Scientology.
So sad. Peaches Geldof, only 25 years old. She has everything. She recently became a follower of the teachings of Aleister Crowley, the evilest man in the world.
And he was accused of having caused some of the members of his group to commit suicide with the pressure he put on them.
She died at a very young age under mysterious circumstances and under the spell of an elite secret society. Her death comes about a year after publicly announcing her initiation into the occult secret society Ordo Templi Orientis. On March 11, 2013, Peaches uploaded this photo to Instagram. Geldof's Instagram snap caused a surge of interest for the secret society. It's based on Aleister Crowley's Thelema. The O.T.O revolves around the concept of sex magic to attain spiritual illumination.
The O.T.O was a German group practicing magic which came under the control of Aleister Crowley in the 1920s. That they have a very liberal attitude towards drug abuse and towards sex, which for most people would probably not be palatable. Crowley's sexual practices were very extreme, sadomasochistic practices. He had a particular penchant for women who had gonorrhea.
Peaches Geldof has been sending tweets and pictures to Instagram which suggest she could be a follower of O.T.O. That's Ordo Templi Orientis. O.T.O are well known for their use of drugs and sadomasochism.
Peaches Geldof was a big Aleister Crowley fan, promoting the O.T.O, sex magic, and essentially Satanism on her Twitter and Instagram accounts. Here she has posted Aleister Crowley's book on her Instagram just a few weeks ago, Magic in Theory and Practice, a book that I do own, a book that details how to murder children to get satanic power.
She was super bright, too bright, that could focus intensely on a book, more or less only on a book, which she consumed and just absorb it.
Geldof defended Crowley on her social media accounts, calling him a beautiful writer and thinker, and posting photos of her bookshelf stacked with volumes of Crowley's work.
Whatever he was up to, I certainly can't see him chanting mumbo-jumbo or trying to raise the dead.
The devil, Mrs. Telfer.
This book is designed to raise the devil.
The thing that I've always loved, what my will was to do ceremonial magic, to do these practices.
Then practiced rituals, which were meant to give them magical powers, to get little demon entities to work on their behalf, to control other people, to do what they wanted them to do.
You know, I don't know how some of this stuff works. I just know it does work.
The creepiness continues. The 24-year-old UK socialite Peaches Geldof snapped this photo of her and her son in the bath. Geldof's followers got to watch the fear unfold on the photo sharing site. A screenshot of frantic text to her husband. "That isn't my hand. One of mine was around his waist to hold him during the photo, the other holding the camera," and says there's no explaining this, what looks like a small hand just above her shoulder. She insists the mystery hand isn't hers or her son.
Crowley did find his guardian angel, and it was I was. The technical name for I was is Lucifer. Lucifer means, in Gnostic terms, before Christianity, Lucis Fero. It means, I bring the light.